gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop. It is fabulous to have you here because we are back at it again, working on the Damascus steel rapier. I believe this is now the longest blade that I have ever been working on. Of course, a few episodes ago, you saw us finish up the blade, get it to a 600 grit finish, and then start on our guard and the actual basket handle. Well, folks, this is where we're at on one half of it. We're now going to straighten these out, do our 4 chisel marks, leaving enough material and hair for us to leave a slot for the tang, and then cutting it and drawing out the other half. Right, let's talk chiseling, since we're doing a lot of it. You see, the chisel we're using, it is a 4140 steel. It's a hot chisel, so the angle is quite acute, so it slits quite nicely. It also has a rounded edge. That means that we are able to line up our cuts a little bit easier and be a little more aggressive with each blow because we reduce the surface area, much like how we reduce the surface area on an axe blade by having it radiused so it better sticks into the wood. Here, it's radiused also. Another thing that you're noticing me doing is with each blow, we're taking the chisel out of the material so that we can look at the effect of our work. It's especially important at the beginning of the chisel cut because it's very easy to get off track. Now less so for staying on track, but more so because we want to keep the chisel edge cool so that it keeps its strength. If you have a listen, I just put that in some water, no sizzling, you know, just like that. There's still moisture on it. This has stayed cool through the duration of this entire cut because we're taking it out with every blow. Helpful to see what we're doing. Also helpful to keep our tool in good shape. Something else you're going to realize, you see that mushrooming on the end of that chisel? That is really starting to get unacceptable. Let's grind that off, then I'm going to explain why if you have a chisel that looks like that on the end, or worse, you're putting yourself in a lot of danger. Much better. Right, so let me explain why mushrooming is so dangerous. When you have that swelling out of material over the top of a tool like this, it means that your hammer blow, when hit straight down, between 80% of the diameter of our piece, we're good. We're able to send the energy straight down, straight through the tool, nothing bad's gonna happen. But here, 10% on either side of the diameter of our tool is completely unsupported, which means that an errant blow here can very easily get that to, best case scenario, bend down, but eventually, the more this is worked, the more it work hardens, the more your mushroom develops. I know a ton of you guys watching have tools that are mushroomed like this and worse, where it forms all the way over, and where when you look on the end even, it's got cracks forming on it. I know you guys are out there, and I implore you, please grind this stuff off, because these things, it's often hardened steel, or if it's not hardened, it's work hardened, and when that errant blow comes, that it hits this and takes a chip, that thing can fly at incredible velocities. And just take a second to imagine the likely direction of where those shards are gonna go. Well, in this area here, there's some stuff that you really don't want to mess up. Not just the old family jewels, but your femoral artery. And if you take a piece of one of these in your femoral artery, you're gonna be having a bad day. Especially so if you haven't gone to my Amazon affiliate link in the link below and got yourself a tourniquet, which you should have when you're in the shop. No matter what, even if you are properly maintaining your tools, because bad stuff can happen in this environment. It's dangerous. And the hope is that we live our entire lives being that weird person that carries around medical gear for absolutely no reason. That's the best outcome. The worst outcome is you actually have to use the thing. Correction, the worst outcome is you die. I haven't mentioned anything about eye protection. Not only can one of those chips mess up your femoral artery pretty badly, you got some soft spots right here. You don't want to mess up either. So wear eye protection. For goodness sake, please wear eye protection. Right, let's get back to it. See if we survive the heat. This is pretty funny right here. So we've got 2 of the 4 pieces separated, but there are these 2 here on the diagonal that are not separated. Of course, we cut down from 4 directions with the chisel, but what's happened is we've gone off center enough that we've separated this piece, and now left this web right in here, which attaches these 2. The trouble is that it's very difficult to get in here, because if I try and apply pressure here, it just tips over. So I'm in a little bit of a muddle trying to work out how it is I can separate that, especially considering these 2 pieces obstruct us getting in there with a chisel. Ugly. So it has been a real nightmare of a time getting this split opened up. It is an ugly split, and I've been chiseling away cold shuts. I have been chiseling away cold shuts so much, and we're gonna have to do some grinding. This is gonna go into the grinding room in a second. For now, however, I'm taking a small fuller into the crotch of all 4 splits there, just to round off that bottom. And now it is time to go crazy with the angle grinder and with the files and grind off all the cold shuts on this. We're going to be reducing the diameters of each of these tines a lot to get it clean, but it is imperative that we do get all of this as clean as possible. So now it's grinding time. So here is where we are at. We have this half drawn out. Now this is the second half. And as I said, of course, we had to grind off a lot of material, so it's much daintier here. The proportions are much smaller. We were able to draw the pieces out much longer, which is going to be helpful for the swept hilt, basket hilt, but everything's much more narrow than our first side. Now, this could be a problem. I actually think it's a little bit of a blessing in disguise, because I think the thinness here is much more appealing, and it's going to be a lot better on this guard. So what I'm now going to do is we're going to come back in here, we're going to go onto every single piece, and we are going to narrow it all down, narrow down the diameters, and here we are going to cut it down and make it the same, make it match this piece here. There's no need for that to be that long. Okay, so we've got the other half drawn. Ow, that's hot! Ow! 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 I need to use tongs. So we got that other piece straightened out. The old family jewels, I think they're doing just about okay after that little toasty encounter. I'm now gonna take this piece of the same material, and we're gonna split the end because I wanna try something. I wanna try and do a little isolation with a fuller on our guard to thin it all down and compress the tines. But I wanna see how it looks first on a test piece of material. So we're gonna split this out 4 ways, and then we're gonna try and run it under the power hammer, I think. So this is how it looks right now. I think we're gonna go ahead with it. By the way, shout out to Sam there, helped me strike on it. So now it's just a case of doing it on this one. You'll notice we made it octagonal. I think then we're gonna re-square what's left of the center. Hopefully it's then gonna lengthen enough. I think this is gonna work. So this is gonna go in the fire. We're gonna do both sides again with the fuller and again with Sam striking. Now, I think that looks really, really beautiful. I also think it needs a punched hole. So, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make a punch and a drift to mean that when this is finished, we have a hole that is still undersized for the tang, so that we can finish it with some files to make sure that we get a perfect fit up. For now, we're gonna take a piece of 4340 chrome nickel steel, 0.4% carbon. It's in the forge. We're gonna heat it up, and then we're gonna forge a round taper, flatten it off. This is gonna forge the slot punch. It's gonna be well undersized. We're then gonna take the same material. We're gonna forge it down into some flat stock that is, I'm gonna go with 0.5 millimeter to 3/4 millimeter smaller than the finished diameters of the tang, so that from it, we can taper it down and make it into a drift that'll hopefully be very close to the final size. It's just 1/2 or 1/4 mil or 1/2 mil of filing on all 4 sides to get it to fit perfectly up the tang. we have a punched and drifted hole. It's undersized. Filing is going to get it to the final size. Fun fact, it actually wasn't 4340 I used for the punch and the drift. I realized it's actually mild steel. Worked fine for one hole. Wouldn't want to do it for more than one hole. But making sure we kept the tool cool, got through there just about okay. So the hole is done. I like that. I like this area. It's looking good. I understand that if you imagine this is the handle, a common grip on a rapier is you actually put your index finger over the top here, and that would be quite comfortable, actually. Now, the drift is in there because when it was hot, of course, it expands, and so I let it cool down with the drift in there so that then when we knock it out, it's not going to be a whole lot smaller. And then the next step from there is somehow shaping this into a swept hilt. But I have no idea how I'm going to do that, and I've spent 3 days on this, and this was meant to be like a trial, an experimentation, so I really hope that it works, because otherwise, I wasted 3 days, but yeah, you know, had a lot of fun learning how to do some pretty complex splits and forge outs. Anyway, we're gonna knock the drift out of there. We're gonna straighten out these pieces and start really working out how we're gonna model it. Start trying to visualize it in a 3D way. So we got the drift out of there, which is good. Our hole is looking very neat. Now, what I think I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use the drift as a little bit of a handle for supporting this in the vise. It's going to mean that we can heat it up, come straight into the vise, and clamp it much easier than we otherwise might. I also think this eye here is going to be facing downwards, and so we're going to be doing everything in this orientation. This material is going to wrap over the top, wrap around the front, then back over the top. Some of it's going to wrap just around the top. And hopefully we're going to be able to form this really nice sweeping and curving and wrapping hilt. Sadly though, there is one big problem, which is the perfect tool for doing this. The oxypropane torch with a rosebud. Open up the oxygen, open up the valve. You hear nothing. I got a microphone here. You'd hear it if there was oxygen. We've been out of oxygen here, I'm embarrassed to say. I think for about a month and a half, I'm gonna say, something like that. That's pretty poor. I should do a better job of keeping track of my oxygen. And so, we're gonna be doing it the old-fashioned way, with the forge. So let's see if we can make something happen by shoving that there near the outside of the forge, getting things hot, and then bending them around. I just know I'm gonna burn myself. My hydraulic press crushed my flux. So as we stand right now, it's as forged, it's rough. These things need some straightening, it needs some tweaking. But before I do that, my plan is we are going to weld these pieces here together. That's going to help give it some more rigidity. I had the idea of drilling some tiny holes and doing some small rivets. I think I'm just going to go for cleaning it, TIG welding it. I think that's going to work just lovely. And then we're going to do the final tweaking, get it all set up, and I think I'm going to see if I can order myself some sodium bisulfate to remove the scale, but that is going to be on another episode, so I hope that you have enjoyed this as much as I have. This has been quite the challenge. It's evident in the surface finish of these pieces, lots of scale. We're hopefully going to be able to deal with that. It has been an unbelievable challenge. I've learned a lot from it. I hope you've enjoyed coming along for it, and I implore you to go down below. The link is in the description. We have just updated the merchandise site, and you can get some really fantastic t-shirts, loads of great stuff. We've even got phone cases. We did only have phone cases for iPhones. Now we've got phone cases for Samsung phones too. I'd love it if you would go there. Links in the description, alecsteelshop.com. It's a wonderful way to support the channel and a great way for you guys to get some cool merch. I'm still waiting for it to come in, but I just had to let you guys know even before I've had it arrive. I'll of course be showing you some of the great shirts that we got in person later on. But meanwhile, thank you so much, and I'm going to see you tomorrow on the next episode.